Tonight, leaving without care. The record number of patients walking out of emergency rooms. The dangerous side effect of long wait times.
One of the major issues causing this is overcrowding.
And the new calls to fix the critical backlog. Taking stock of the health cost of rising food prices.
Whatever fits the budget is whatever I'm eating for the day.
Sacrificing nutrition to save money, the shift in grocery habits. Plus, a historic triumph.
This is a great victory for all of us in Manitoba.
The country's first First Nations provincial premier ushers in a new political era.
CTV National News with Omar Sachedina. Reporting tonight, Sandy Ronaldo.
Good evening. If you have ever spent time in a hospital emergency room, you will relate to our top story. And if you've ever given up, frustrated by the long wait times, and exited the ER before seeing a medical professional, you are not alone. New data obtained by CTV News shows a shocking increase in patients leaving hospitals without emergency care, approximately 1 in 14. CTV's medical correspondent Avis Favreau has this exclusive report on the sweeping exodus.
The problem is coded by hospitals as LWBS, patients who leave without being seen. They register for care, but because of long waits and crowded ERs, simply give up and walk away. Data obtained by CTV News shows that in 2003 and 4, over 184,000 people who went to ER left without being seen. And that rate over the past 2 decades has risen steadily to where in 2021-22, nearly 1 million walked out. That's over 5 times the amount of people in 2003.
I was like, wow, that's unbelievable. It's very concerning because there are definitely patients who need emergency care that have left.
Crowded ERs are the main cause. Doctors report there aren't enough hospital beds or staff, so patients who need them wait in the ER. And among those sitting are time bombs like Charlene Snow.
I'm mad. I'm angry. She should be here.
She went to emergency at Cape Breton Regional Hospital last December with jaw pain and flu-like symptoms. She waited 7 hours and gave up, later dying at home. The goal, say doctors, is to have no patients leaving ER without being seen.
We'd like them to be zero, but there's some emergency departments on the East Coast in the summertime that were reporting left without being seen rates as high as 40%.
And some doctors worry the emergency safety net is breaking.
We should put our politicians to answer for what they will do to address the current state of affairs.
Canada's emergency physicians will be meeting next week with provincial health ministers because they are the ones with the power to start fixing the ER crisis. Sandy?
Avis Favreau, thank you, Avis. Urgency over surging food costs ignited debate today in the House of Commons.
We have more Canadians than ever relying on assistance just to eat. And a poll out just today shows that 2/3 of Canadians are actually afraid for their health because they can't buy nutritious food.
As a few weeks ago, we moved forward with the Affordable Housing and Groceries Act, which will help build more rental homes and increase competition, including amongst the largest groceries.
Here's CTV's Vanessa Lee on how Canadians are shifting their shopping habits.
More and more people are compromising nutrition due to high food prices.
It's extremely hard because there are large grocery stores, large grocery store monopolies that are trying to milk the maximum profit.
You gotta make ends meet, and yeah, just whatever fits the budget is whatever I'm eating for the day.
A new survey found nearly half of Canadians have reduced the quantity of meat they buy, while 45% are prioritizing cost over nutritional value, with consequences extending well beyond their wallet.
Canadians are actually concerned about their own health due to higher food prices over the long term. That's 3 out of 5 Canadians, which is a lot.
For many households, fresh fruits and vegetables may no longer be part of the regular grocery run. This group of students is trying to change that.
The kale is 2 for $5. The herbs are 2 for $5.
They're part of a cooperative of urban farmers that grows its own food, harvesting 5,000 pounds of vegetables.
We're not trying to reap a profit off of the food that we're growing. We're trying to sell things at the cost of production.
The unrelenting costs at grocery giants are prompting price-conscious shoppers to fill their carts elsewhere, turning to dollar store chains and less conventional options. Ontario-based company Odd Bunch says they've seen a surge in demand. They sell fruits and vegetables that don't make it to store shelves at a discount.
Oftentimes you'll find that they've got cosmetic imperfections. So they may be a weird shape, a size, maybe they've got a bit of discoloration. And because of that, we're able to get it at a lower price.
Overall, grocery prices have fallen slightly, but not nearly enough for families feeling squeezed and forced to make tough decisions. Vanessa Lee, CTV News, Montreal.
Well, Manitoba's NDP weren't playing it cool today. They were outright celebrating a historic political win. Last night, the party, led by the country's first First Nations provincial premier, walked away with a majority government. Here's CTV's Manitoba Bureau Chief Jill McCarthy with the key issues facing the new man on the job.
41-year-old Wab Canoe has spent 7 years working to get here.
This is a great victory for all of us.
And a lifetime working to change perceptions.
I want to share the words that my father always told us. Ando buachigek. Seek your vision. Seek your vision. Dreams come true.
Canoe, Canada's first First Nations provincial premier, today spoke of the immense responsibility.
It's my intention to move the ball forward so that that future generation can do even more powerful things than we can imagine.
His New Democrats taking a majority government, leaving political turmoil in the wake. Manitoba's Liberal leader Dougal Lamont and Progressive Conservative leader Heather Stephenson have both resigned.
Wab, I hope that your win tonight inspires a future generation of Indigenous youth to get involved in our democratic process.
The Progressive Conservative campaign, called divisive by opponents, focused early on this issue. Billboards and ads to stand firm in the refusal to search a landfill for 2 murdered Indigenous women. Citing the $184 million cost, the safety of workers, and the improbable odds, the Conservatives refused to do it. But Canoe has committed to a search, and today Ottawa announced more funding to study the possibilities.
The federal government will be putting forth $740,000 towards additional work that needs to be done.
Canoe's first 100 days in office will focus on health care and affordability, but the landfill search will be pushed as a priority for the new premier. As one Grand Chief told me, it's his obligation. Jill McCarthy, CTV News, Winnipeg.
Another apology from Ottawa over another honor given to a man later found to have fought for the Nazis. This time, it's Rideau Hall expressing regrets. This latest incident, along with the high-profile embarrassment in Parliament, are leading to new questions about exactly how many people with Nazi ties entered the country. Here's CTV's Annie Bergeron-Oliver.
As Governor General Mary Simon spoke to budding artists in Toronto.
National conversations that we have about human rights.
Rideau Hall was apologizing for naming a member of a volunteer Ukrainian Nazi military unit to the Order of Canada in 1987. Historical appointments to the Order of Canada reflect a specific moment in time and would have been based on limited information sources. Peter Savarin, who died in 2017, was the former Chancellor of the University of Alberta and a well-known Ukrainian activist, but he also fought with the Waffen-SS Galicia Division in the Second World War. The same volunteer Nazi military unit as 98-year-old Yaroslav Hunka. The man Canada's former Speaker of the House says he regrets recognizing in Parliament. Speaking last week, the Governor-General called what happened in the House upsetting.
It was very embarrassing. It was a shock and an embarrassment.
Some Jewish organizations estimate at least 2,000 Ukrainian Waffen-SS members may have immigrated to Canada after the war. In the 1980s, the Deschênes Commission on War Criminals in Canada looked into the issue, but its key conclusions have never been made public. The CEO of B'nai B'rith says Ottawa should unredact the report and release it.
What's been redacted, elements of this report, are actually the names of certain Nazis who were led into this country. Some of them, who it's believed were actually Nazi war criminals. Why that information has not been released previously, we don't know.
The Prime Minister today said the government is waiting for recommendations on what to do.
We have made sure that there are top public servants who are looking very carefully into the issue, including digging into the archives.
But nearly 40 years after the documents were made secret, MPs appear divided on whether the seal should be broken.
Given that this has been a long time ask, that transparency is the right way to go.
I don't think it's an occasion to review it.
B'nai B'rith has launched a petition calling on the government to fully unseal and release any documents it has regarding the admission of Nazis after the Second World War. Annie Bergeron-Oliver, CTV News, Ottawa.
Uniformed officers from across the country marched through Langley, BC today to honor their fallen colleague, Constable Rick O'Brien. The procession followed the hearse to the regimental funeral. Inside, family and friends remembered a funny and loving father. A family friend spoke for O'Brien's widow.
How do I ever imagine life without you? When our whole life was planned around being together and watching the kids grow up.
The 51-year-old father of 6 was shot and killed while executing a search warrant in Coquitlam last month. The search is on in Washington for a new House Speaker after a right-wing revolt took out the last one yesterday. Some leading Republicans announced their intentions to run for the job today, but they'll have to overcome the infighting in their own party. CTV's Washington Bureau Chief Joy Malbon reports.
The race for House Speaker is on after that dramatic ousting of Republican Kevin McCarthy, who seemed upbeat today.
Mr. McCarthy, how are you feeling this morning?
Right.
This after being knifed by a group of far-right Republican rebels in his own party, led by Trump ally Matt Gaetz, a blood feud that seemed personal.
Speaker McCarthy's time is over. I have no personal animus to him. I hope he finds fruitful pastures.
Now some Republicans are talking about kicking Gaetz out.
There needs to be a reckoning within the conference.
Someone threw a grenade right in the middle of the House floor. There's a reason this hasn't been done in well over 100 years.
I think we need to be pointing our guns outward, not at each other.
Scrambling now for a new speaker, the party's number 2, Steve Scalise, recovering from blood cancer, wants the gavel.
This is really important that we get this right. And that we get back to work.
Another contender, Jim Jordan, also a Trump ally who plans to challenge White House funding for Ukraine.
The most pressing issue on Americans' minds is not Ukraine. It is the border situation and it's crime on the streets.
The House paralyzed, legislation on hold, and the clock ticking on another government shutdown next month. President Joe Biden urged House Republicans to get their act together.
It does worry me. It's overwhelmingly in the interest of the United States of America that Ukraine succeed.
Republicans giving themselves a week for tempers to cool before trying to unite behind a new speaker.
Better damn well be. We got to get it done.
Holding an internal vote first to resolve the dysfunction, and this time keeping it behind closed doors. Joy Malbon, CTV News, Washington.
The trial of former cryptocurrency king Sam Bankman-Fried got underway in New York today with prosecutors accusing him of committing a massive fraud by taking billions of dollars from thousands of victims. They allege the 31-year-old funneled funds from FTX, the company he founded, to buy penthouses in the Bahamas, make political donations, and place bad bets at his hedge fund. Bankman-Fried has pleaded not guilty to 7 counts of fraud and conspiracy. His lawyers described him as a math nerd who didn't defraud anyone. Coming up, a dishonorable act in a place honoring our troops.
It was like a sucker punch. It's senseless.
Shock and heartbreak as veterans' gravestones are vandalized. Plus, a salute to this Caped Crusaders sky-high mission. An act of vandalism at a cemetery has unsettled and outraged military families in Fredericton. Headstones were spray painted with graffiti, leaving a community baffled as to why someone would be so disrespectful to the graves of war veterans. CTV's Atlantic Bureau Chief Christian Eshkate reports.
This is the final resting place for 127 Canadian veterans remembered for their bravery. However, recently the site has been disturbed, targeted, and defaced by vandals.
It was like a sucker punch. It's senseless, and I don't even know how to describe it. It's so hurtful.
These people just don't realize who gave them their freedom.
More than 20 veteran headstones have been spray painted with obscenities or knocked down in Fredericton's Forest Hill Cemetery. The damage was in the Royal Canadian Legion section of the graveyard.
I know the families of the veterans and that are really choked up about it, as well as we are.
Terry Ann McTiernan's late aunt and uncle were both veterans and later buried here.
You can't ruin my aunt and uncle's memories. You can't. They were fabulous, fabulous. And why somebody would do this and why they did it to the Legion and people that fought for our country is even worse.
Both the Fredericton police and the city say the incidents occurred over the past 2 weekends, and they are now asking the public for any leads.
To learn that the headstones of our veterans were defaced is just such a shameful act.
Police say the investigation is ongoing and cemetery staff will remove the graffiti carefully to not damage the gravestones any further. Christian Eshkate, CTV News, Halifax.
A couple of backpackers staying at a hostel in Australia escaped serious injury after a terrifying blast today. Surveillance video shows the moment a lithium-ion battery exploded, with the men fleeing the room. One was treated for minor burns. Fire officials say a faulty e-bike battery left on charge may have been the cause. Our next story after the commercial break will bug you. The pest infestation creeping out one of the world's most beautiful cities. Smoking could one day be banned in England if British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has his way. Under his plan, the legal age of 18 would be raised by 1 year every year until it's eventually illegal for everyone to smoke.
That means a 14-year-old today will never legally be sold a cigarette, and that they and their generation can grow up smoke-free.
Sunak's proposal, unveiled at a Conservative Party Congress today, still needs Parliament's approval. Well, authorities in France took the unusual step today of insisting there is no bedbug infestation on their public transit system. The message follows recent reports of an outbreak and comes less than a year before the Paris Olympics. CTV's Geneviève Beauchemin reports.
A rash of sightings and social media posts warning of an all-out bedbug invasion reaching the rail system have proven largely unfounded. That's at least according to France's transport minister, trying to calm the nation today. We cannot lapse into hysteria, said Clément Beaune. The world is preparing to converge on Paris for the Summer Olympics. But over the past few days, the spotlight on the City of Lights has turned to bugs that generally hide in the dark. They feed on the blood of sleeping people, cinema goers, and transit riders. All this has traumatized me, she says. I keep my luggage close to avoid taking bugs to my house. A handful of schools have closed, a hospital, and countless homes were fumigated. And earlier this week, an opposition politician held up a vial of evidence in the lower house of Parliament. She warned the little insects had spread despair across the country. And she called for the creation of a free pest control service. Our workload is monstrous, says this technician. About 1 in 10 people is affected in France. In Paris, it's 1 in 4. Bedbugs were largely wiped off the map by the mid-20th century, but returned around the world. A pest control organization has pinpointed Toronto as the bedbug capital of Canada. A boom in international travel and the bug's increasing resistance to pesticides are partly to blame. Some have questioned whether this issue has infected the minds of the French more than bugs have actually spread. On Friday, France's government will hold a special meeting to tackle this bedbug crisis. Geneviève Beauchemin, CTV News, Montreal.
There is immense disappointment across the country tonight as Canada's only Major League Baseball team is done for the year. The Toronto Blue Jays were shut out by the Minnesota Twins in a must-win playoff game. The Jays losing the best of 3 series, 2-0. It was the 7th straight playoff loss for the Jays since 2016. After the break, what goes up must come down.
And they said, now you're 70, you deserve to be a superhero.
The daredevil action at the drop zone, all for a good cause. An adventurous fundraiser had some brave people rappelling down the side of an office building today, all to raise money for kids with physical disabilities. Among the daredevils was a man giving back by doing the stunt in his power wheelchair. CTV's Heather Wright now on the downtown drop zone.
17 stories above downtown Toronto, Rebecca Cito embraced her inner superhero today, rappelling down the side of a building for a good cause.
They said, now you're 70, you deserve to be a superhero. So here I am, and I train, and I've got a little bit of muscles.
This is the second time Cito has harnessed up to go down, raising money for Easter Seals Ontario, which helps children with physical disabilities.
It's a bird, it's a plane, it's Super Andrew.
Andrew Nielsen has cerebral palsy and credits Easter Seals with providing him with wheelchairs when he was younger.
I'm a bit of a daredevil, so when I heard about Drop Zone, it really appealed to me.
Andrew also went to Easter Seals Camp, which is where he met Todd Stevens, who was on hand to cheer Andrew on as he went up and rappelled down the building with his wheelchair in tow.
Andrew and I met at camp 36 years ago. He was a camper and I was a counselor, and we've just been best friends ever since.
It's those life experiences that President Kevin Collins says are vital for young people.
It's an environment where they can be kids. They can participate in a number of events and not have to worry about any barriers or restrictions, just have fun.
And when kids grow out of wheelchairs like they do shoes, support from Easter Seals goes a long way.
Wheelchairs for a young child could be anywhere from $5,000 up to $45,000. So you can imagine as that child grows and develops, how often that family would have to invest in something to ensure that their child gets an opportunity for independence.
Similar events happen in cities across the country, a chance to face some fears.
Oh my God, it was really scary.
While giving back. Heather Wright, CTV News, Toronto.
And that's our newscast for this Wednesday. Thank you for sharing your time with us. I'm Sandy Ronaldo for Omar and all of us here at CTV National News. Good night until tomorrow.